Hey there, this is Piper here, and this video is going to be a tutorial video. I'm going to go over some of the tips and tricks that I've learned in Rome Total War over the last couple of years and recently. I've been playing this game for a long time now, and there's certain things that I will tell you that will really help your game. So I'll go over how to change how the screen looks. This screen actually differs. It's called minimal UI. I'll go over how to change this, and this actually helps a lot because you can actually see more of the screen. You've got less down below. You can take off minimap and other things. It's actually helpful, so I'll show you how to do that. I'll also show you some of the neat keys, the hotkeys you can use to help keep army formations and to help speed up your micro. So what I'll do is I'll go over the minimal UI first, get that sorted out, and then I'll show you how to use some of the hotkeys afterwards. Okay, so we want to find the preferences file, and there'll be two places the preference file will be stored, depending whether you're playing Rome Total War on Steam or using the vanilla disk or Game Ranger. So if you want to find the preferences file using the Steam, you go into Program Files, Steam, Steam Apps, Common. I've got the Gold Edition, so Rome Total War, Preferences, and then that's your document there. If you're trying to find the game using the disk version, slightly different. You go into your documents, and you got to have it's actually a hidden file because the game's so old. These files are hidden away. So go into View, take Hidden Items, App Data, Local, Virtual Store, Program Files x86. Should be the Creative Assembly, Rome Total War, Preferences, and then that's your preferences file there. So what we'll do is we'll go into the preferences file and we'll see how things are. So right here you've got a section at the bottom that says minimal UI. If I can find it, that is. There it is, minimal UI. Okay, that's normally false, and that brings up the standard Rome Total War camera. So if you want the minimal UI setting, which is better in my opinion, type in delete false. It's usually a false there. Type in true in capitals, no space. And that'll give you the minimal UI setting. Another thing you can do is you can play around with your resolutions to get a better screen size. I don't play in a full HD. I play with bars down the sides. I think the soldiers look slightly better. Okay, so we have camera FOV, camera movement, and camera rotate. So these are three things that will determine how fast the camera moves, what you can see. So the camera FOV, field of vision, for me is 85. I think it's usually less than this on the vanilla settings, but I have it on camera FOV 85, camera movement 300, camera rotate 50. And this is actually superior than the standard Rome Total War settings. Enables me to see a bit more field of view, camera movement slightly faster as well, and camera rotate it's a little bit less actually, but I don't want it to be too fast. Quite a lot of people have this on 300 and they have camera rotate on 80, so it's ultra fast, but you can play around with these to get the right setting that you like, and that will greatly help your playing as well, greatly help your micro. Okay, so we have our minimal UI screen here, and also note that in the preferences you can actually change around with other stuff as well. You can change around with general dying cutscenes. You can take off that. You can take off the triangles. You don't see the green triangles when I play. So there's loads of things you can swap around. That's just some of them you can swap around, but play around. Definitely make the preferences fit you to what you like. So you've got the field of view here. You can alter the way the screen looks. You can take off the mini map. You can take off the icons. So to do this, if you want to have, not many players use the mini map, it can be useful. You can press, I think it's F6. It's actually F5. So if you press F5, that takes off minimap. If you press F6, that takes away your icons. So you can either have it like static. It's like 3 settings: scroll over, static, or not in use at all. And you can take off your icons as well by pressing F7. So you can have the proper general view by using those commands. One thing to note is I'm playing on my laptop and I need to press the FN button with F6 and F7. But if you're playing on a desktop, it'll just be F5 and F6 and no FN button. Okay, so we have the minimal UI screen set up. That's how we want it, or that's how I like it. Taking off the minimap, I've kept the icon static and I've kept the unit cards static as well. Sometimes it's good to keep the icons in flashing. It can get a bit annoying if it's in the centre the whole time, but having it there is quite useful. The next piece of information I'm going to tell you is the Alt key. So sometimes if you're moving your army around, for example like here, we've selected everything, move the army over here, you see it's actually changed the formation shape. It's actually made it facing left towards Carthage again. It's turned around again, move it over here, it's turned around again. So in order to stop this happening, you can press the Alt key. So get these guys lined up again, I'll show you properly. So these guys are lined up. We want the whole army to move over here, but remain facing in that direction. So you can hold the Alt key like this, say move over slightly, and that brings the army over like that. So it's still facing the same direction, all the troops are in the same area, but they're facing in the same direction. So that's really helpful, the Alt key. Same again, using the horses there. We want these guys to be lined up behind the troops, exactly facing the same way. So you can move these guys around like that by pressing the arrow buttons, the brackets, and then round again a little bit. And by using the Alt key, get these guys to run across but facing the same direction. So that's really helpful, using the Alt key, because it means that you know exactly where your troops will be facing where you click them. One thing to note when you're using the Alt key, when you have groups in your army and you use Alt key, it kind of messes things up a little bit. We have an army here, 4 lines of urbans. Okay, we've selected group 1, want to go over here but face forward. So we hold the Alt key, click, and you can see the lines actually moved around. Try that again, hold Alt key, it's changed around again, hold Alt key, change around again. So if you have units in a group by themselves and use Alt key, it's not going to work. The strange thing is though, it actually works when you have 2 groups. So we've got group 1, group 2, hold down the Alt key, and for some reason it works. So when you use Alt key will not work just for 1 group, it has to work with 2 groups. So although Alt key doesn't work individually with 1 line of units in a group, Alt key will work fine when these units are out with group formation. So they're in a line like that. Use the Alt key, and they work fine out with the group formation. So Alt key will work, for example, with multiple groups, 2, 3, 4. Alt key, click. It works fine, although it doesn't work when it's with one group by itself. Okay, the next trick I'm going to show you is the tab key. The tab key is very useful for switching between troops. So if you hold the tab key, you can see it's actually swapping between each soldier unit card at the bottom there. And that's really helpful for certain situations. For example, if you are about to engage in the Archer War, we'll move these guys forward using the Alt key. So basically we'll rush these guys forward, right? Using the hotkeys as well. And say we want to start using the Archer War, so say click there. And you can see there we were able to use the tab key to quickly swap between our archers there and target the enemy archers. That could be quite useful if you had maybe had slingers and there was a range disadvantage there. So that's really useful to use the tab key, and also with the tab key in conjunction with the minimal UI, you know exactly which unit to get. So that could really speed up your micro. You could really swap between units quite fast. Okay, so the next tip is using the plus and minus buttons to make your lines weaker, shorter or longer rather. So say you have some urbans here, and for whatever reason they might be outnumbered. You want to close the gaps between the urbans. Having these guys in guard mode to make a defensive wall maybe of shields. You can hold the plus button, and that makes that line longer. So effectively reduces how many deep the men are. So you just hold the plus button for maybe like 2 or 3 seconds, and that automatically makes a very, very defensive wall there. And you can press the minus button for maybe like 3 seconds, and that'll take those guys back into their original shape. So again, very useful for situations where you're outnumbered and you need to hold the line. Okay, another thing to note, I made some tutorial videos on how to use hotkeys. If you want to improve your micro, definitely use the hotkeys as much as you can. Try and have hotkeys for Naval Fire at Will, guard mode, and run. Just to make it so like if you need to use them fast, you know exactly where they are and you're accustomed to it. But you should also try and use the other hotkeys as well. So single line, that's really helpful. Control all for controlling all your troops, control missile, and control C for cavalry. Because if you watch some of the other tutorials that I made, when you group units it messes up how they attack. So being able to use these commands fast is very beneficial. So we've got our urban set up there. You can press shift and 1 together. That puts those guys into line formation. So that saves time having to go up to line. Another thing is you can hold down the control button and double click on a unit. That selects all those troops. To select them fast, select, double click, double click, double click. So the computer will select all the troops of the same type. So quite a useful tip if you're playing online against players. You can see how much they spent. For example, if you're playing with people you don't really know and you're curious to know if they've actually spent all their money, you can do a command, hash symbol and then P. So you press T and then go down to all players and type in hash P, and that will tell you which players are playing which faction, how much is spent, and if you do the hash P command before the battle starts, it will tell you who hasn't clicked start. Okay, the next tip I'm going to show you is something that I learned, and if you have troops here like this, for example if they were a missile cavalry or a jav cav, you had them set to skirmish, you can make them swap between loose and tight formation like this when they're running. It doesn't do anything, they don't stop or anything, but if you had these in say tight formation like this and get them to attack these guys here, so they'd run in. So we're attacking, like, if you get too close and then swap to loose, swap to tight just before, these guys actually stop before they come into contact. So they can swap all the time, but if they get too close to the target, they will stop before they get there, and that can be very, very bad for your cavalry or any troops. So you can swap between tight and loose any as many times as you want, but when you get too close to your target, don't do it, because there will actually stop. When you want your guys to come out of combat, especially cavalry, or it could be any troops, get them to guard mode. So I've got my hotkey set to D, the guard mode. You press that, and then you would hold Alt and then double click behind. So we're going to attack the cavalry and the urbans here. Then we're going to quickly pull these guys out. So we're attacking the cavalry and the urbans in the center. We want to pull these guys out fast, so guard mode, Alt, double click, and now we know that the cavalry's going to come out over here. So you don't need to go at the back, click drag or anything, just hold Alt and double click. Sometimes the cavalry gets stopped because the cavalry came into attack there. We'll just try that again. We'll attack the cavalry here, and we're going to rout that unit there, but more cavalry came in there, so it's a bit more attacking. Guard mode, hold Alt and double click. You might need to do that several times because cavalry does get entangled quite easily, but guard mode will help that. So that's the best way of pulling cavalry out of combat, in my opinion. Okay, that's the tutorial video over. Thanks for watching. I hope you've learned some good, neat tricks and tips in Rome Total War, especially using things like the Alt key and the Hotkeys and changing the minimal UI. So definitely play around with the preferences. It's very handy to get the setting that's right for you. Stay tuned for more videos, and again, thanks for watching. This is Piper signing off.